Happy 2024, everybody. Welcome in. I know there's nobody here except for me, so I'll say my official good afternoons, good whatevers here in a little bit. That being said, once I see some people join the stream, I've got a little bit of admin to go over, some questions and stuff primarily. Hey everybody, I'm just attempting to, I don't know why it's not letting me. There we go. Hey Eric, Happy New Year Scott, Sean, Bob, Chris, hello everybody, NS. Is that Nick? Colin, Ian, happy Friday, guys. So real quick, if you wouldn't mind, the setup here is a little bit different. Mostly, I've had to move some stuff around, although you can't really tell. But I do have a different, I'm using a different microphone today because my other microphone is out of action. So if you would let me know on this one whether or not the levels look good to me in terms of the volume and stuff. Excuse me. But I want to make sure you guys can hear it when I talk normal. So if there isn't any issues with the volume, please let me know. That would be helpful. I can try to adjust things a little bit before we get into stuff. Otherwise, I'm just going to assume things are good. All right, then we'll just leave it the way that it is, and I won't mess with anything. Let's see here. Move that out of the way. Okay. Boy, we got a bunch of people in here today. Alrighty then. All right, we're gonna kind of jump in. Hello, Anzilla, Bertie, Anthony. Boy, I got a lot of same like letters and combinations here. Looks like we got a lot of returning customers, so to speak. Those of you that are in the chat, and a few new people maybe, which is great to see. I love having new people in here. I don't know how long we're gonna go through the good old list here. I'll lay it out since there's so many people in here now. Kind of go over things briefly, and then we'll jump right in. Excuse me. All right, so the kind of like the crux of this video is normally in the past when we did recorded video and not just live content, I'd sit down and we'd record and edit a 2023 recap video somewhere in mid-December. Excuse me, man, the hiccup's really bad. And then right before break, right before we went on our Christmas break, I would do kind of a 2024 look ahead type thing. And after my meeting with Bill, when we sit down and kind of plan stuff out, just to kind of give people an idea, hey, this is kind of where we were in 2023. Here's what we did. Here's what we didn't get accomplished. And then here's kind of the stuff that's carrying over in 2024. Here's where we're going to do things differently. And we haven't done that for a couple years now, partially because when we redid the studio in here and went away from like recorded video content, we attempted to set things up in here so we could do both of those, and it just wasn't feasible. And then not having a video editor on full time was kind of problematic. Like, I didn't have the ability to learn video editing along with all the rest of the stuff that I'm learning. So I have my notes here. So we're going to kind of do all of that stuff in this the live stream. So we're going to do a 2023 recap, which may be shorter than I expected it to be. Then we'll do a 2024 kind of look ahead type of thing. And a Q&A, of course, and then we'll do like a giveaway. And hopefully not too much out of that shows up in terms of like me getting off track and talking for 20 minutes on a different topic. Although that has been known to happen. Those of you who have been here before, you have been the recipient of my ramblings numerous times. All right, I just need to add one more thing. Okay, so, boy, one more drink of water and then we can get right to business. Whew. Okay. I'm going to put this back here so I can read it. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. That's the entertaining part. Cheers. Cheers to that. That is the entertaining part. All right, so let's kind of get into it. So 2023. I don't even know really how to begin talking about 2023 as in chunks or as a whole. I feel like a broken record, and I kind of say this every single time I've done one of these recaps, whether it's a written form in the newsletter or a blog post or on the ones that we did recorded or even the live ones. I'm sure if you sign up for enough like small manufacturer, small maker newsletters, or you're active in those communities, you probably heard some of the similar type of stuff. But this year was a struggle, a struggle just from January 1st, 2023 through December, 31st. And I'm speaking solely in terms of Karis. We were lucky. We were really, really fortunate enough to have very strong years in the midst of COVID, like the actual, like in 2020 with the lockdowns that occurred, and then 2021 and kind of the upheaval coming out of that a lot of other manufacturers or businesses or companies struggled through those times. We were lucky enough that we didn't. Sorry. My chair just sunk a little bit. Okay, so we were lucky enough that we kind of didn't have that hit us in 2020 and 2021. In fact, we had 2 really strong years. We expanded. We started looking to the future, heavily planning for growth, and not taking a lot of risks, just actively planning towards it. Whereas the past, we didn't really, we tried to only really plan 6 to 18 months ahead of time in terms of like pins and the business and how we run things. And then there was a pretty decent contraction in terms of any of like the metrics that we would judge in terms of engagement and sales and everything in 2022, and then another further contraction from that contraction in 2022 this last year in 2023. So our engagement was far it was a much smaller group of people that were engaging with us on any of our platforms. We saw a lot of changes in terms of how we had to do things. We attempted to briefly use a marketing agency to try to like figure out how to navigate that, which didn't result in any kind of actionable I don't know, they didn't help us any realistically. If anything, like during the changes that they made ended up hurting us more than helping us. So we kind of pulled back, circled the wagons, and just kind of decided to do things organically. So there's a lot of just strange oddities this year. One thing I can say is that during this entire process, several metrics that I look at specifically in terms of like newsletter stuff and online like Facebook type stuff, like the percentages have basically stayed the same in terms of like people reading the newsletters and opening and clicking and stuff like that. Like it's basically the same. Everything else is a little bit depressed in terms, but I think that's largely what the majority of industries are seeing, especially in, you know, in terms of like luxury type goods like we would fall into. So that's kind of where we started at. We knew going into 2023 that this year was gonna be another like hang on for a bumpy ride, and that's what happened. And so because of that, like we tried to do things differently. I think we there was a period of time where like there was all kinds of crazy changes going on, and internally with like how we were gonna stock items and sell items, and I think our last like retail partner kind of dried up at the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023. So we kind of shut down our retail partner program temporarily. We just put it on hold. It's not something that we were doing at all in 2023. And so that allowed me to kind of shift even further into just doing marketing direct to customer. So there was a lot of stuff that we wanted to get back into. We hadn't had resin decographs since the winter of 2018. So that was high on the list to get back to making resin decographs because those were so popular when we had them. We hadn't had them for so many years. So like we pushed that to the front of the line. We went through some changes in terms of how we manufactured our vertexes and changes to the process because we ran into some crazy production problems with some of the material that we were using was causing massive issues. So there's all this weird. It just feels like every single year something else gets thrown into the mix. To just kind of be like, hey, let's keep you on your toes. So like we had to kind of like pull back on our plans for the Vertex because we had some big plans going into the beginning of 2023, and by like March or April, we had identified that a lot of those plans were just not going to happen in terms of how we created resin decographs and vertexes. And I don't really have like an update on that. Just suffice to say that at this point in time, we're like 4.5, 5 years into a process of streamlining our non-metal production of vertexes. and a lot of money invested into it, and still are at like square one where that entire project is. So a lot of the plans that we had made just did not end up finalizing in the beginning of 2023 and then throughout the year. But we were able to do a lot of things. We basically, once we realized that, we're like, okay, let's sit back down and come up with a whole new set of goals for this year in terms of like, what are we going to make? How are we going to make it? How are we going to sell it? What are we going to focus on? So like we saw, you guys, many of you saw the us bring back the Speedsters this year, a product that's not a pen product, but it's a product that people have asked for since I joined the Keras team in 2015. And we didn't have any at the time when I came on board. We'd already sold through the initial 2 production runs, and we weren't planning on making any more. In fact, I said time and time again when people would ask, nope, we're never going to make them again. Well, never say never, because this last year we redesigned it, went back to the drawing board, redesigned it, made it smaller, and we're able to crank out, 4 or 5 different colors, and have plans to do more of the Speedsters and different shapes of the body and stuff like that going forward. It's not something that we're going to put on the back burner any longer. It will be kind of like an as we can like fit it into the production catalog, because we only have one machine that we can mill that product on right now. So it is dependent upon having the time on the machine to do it, but it's something that we'll actively go ahead and continue to do. Went to a whole bunch of shows this year. So we went to a few shows last year, and then we expanded the shows this year. And for the most part, had a great time at every single one of those shows. We'll be back to many of those shows. Not all of them. We're kind of like shrinking the amount of shows that we're going to hit in 2024. I'll go over that later. But the shows that we did go to in 2023, had a great time in Colorado. Had an awesome time. G had an awesome time in Dallas. Like, had a ton of fun. She said that show is definitely going to be one we go to for the foreseeable future. So if you are in the Dallas area, I know saying if you're in Texas is like ridiculous, because it's faster for me to get to Colorado than it is to get from, El Paso to Dallas probably, or nearly the same amount of time. But yeah, like we'll be back to Dallas. So if you're in the Dallas, Texas region sometime, this year, you'll be able to see us there. Had a bunch of fun at like the new California show, this last year. Basically every show that we went to had a great time, like we always do. We love seeing all of the people that come and interact with us. For the majority of the shows, we at least broke even. Many of the shows we made money on, which is neither here nor there. Like shows we would like to make money at the shows, but as long as we break even and kind of, it's just a new audience, because a lot of people that we see at the shows are like, oh, I've never heard of you guys before, which is crazy that we've been around for, we've been making pens for over 10 years. And I feel like we do a lot of, different marketing and put our faces out there in multiple different places around the internet, but some people still have never heard, lots of people have never heard of us or even seen our products. So it's always fun to interact with those new people. We had paused Cerakote pens for a while towards the end of 2022, and then we brought that back sometime, I forget, I think it was around May or April, June maybe, I don't remember, but sprinkled in some of those throughout the year, the majority of them at the end of the year. I think we kicked things back off with some more Jawbreaker pens, which may be the last Jawbreaker pens we ever do. Our Cerakote applicator basically told us this took us months to get those. We actually gave him pens in October of 2022 for the Jawbreaker like design, like that motif. And normally he's like, oh yeah, it'll be 4 to 6 weeks. and it ended up being like 6 to 8 months before we saw those pens back. And we got other stuff back. Like I sent him some pens for other colors that we got back before we got those. And he basically told us, he's like, I don't want to ever do those pens again. So, so if we do them again, it's going to be very, very like, it will be much more infrequent, maybe once a year if we're lucky. And it'll likely require us like crawling back to him on our knees, to do those pins going forward. He really does not enjoy that process whatsoever. So we did that. We did, like I said, did the speedsters, titanium. We released some more titanium stuff. And before anybody, just to get it out of the way, so nobody has any questions in the Q&A about it, the plan is still to pause any type of titanium production for the near future until pricing comes down, and we see an uptick in terms of sales for items like that. Items that would require us to price at a premium, and also have a much higher cost of good, like titanium, are just going to have to be paused for now. So whatever titanium stuff we still have hanging around the shop, I know we still do have some. We have some bolts still here that we're in the finishing processes. I think we still have a few more. We have some more retracts, but I think once that's done, we'll be done with the titanium for a while. Okay, let's see. I know everybody wants titanium inks and I want a titanium Vertex, and Bill wants titanium, like his favorite pens he wants in titanium. We would really like to see the modal in titanium, but it's just going to have to be something that we cannot continue to invest the upfront cost in it, and not be able to recoup it in. I can't even give you a time frame. If we were to purchase enough titanium right now to do one like run of titanium pens, based off of the historical sales of titanium for us when we had them in stock, it would take us over 12 months to recoup that, just to break even on that investment. So it's not something that we can do. And that's largely because of the type of titanium that we have to use for our pens. We don't have the luxury of using titanium tubing, like some other companies do that have different pricing on their titanium. A lot of their large parts are made out of tubing, stuff like that. So that's just the way that it is right now. So we were able to add the natural and hard black anodized this year to our pens, something that we'd only really offered in the cubes before. We were able to finally get those on certain pens. We tested it with the Vertexes, just because the Vertexes have fewer threads, and then we were able to expand it to the modals and EDKs and bolts and retracts, and you kind of saw hard anodize on almost all of our pens this year, that we were heavily trying to feature, that we were in stock on, in one shape or form towards the end of the year. And we may or may not do that going forward. Likely not as much as it will likely be small amounts, probably reserved like once or twice a year. Just because we ran into some weird issues with the natural, specifically the hard black, that stuff's pretty easy, but at the same time, it is about double the cost of just the matte black, and it doesn't really it doesn't provide that much. It is much more durable, but for a pen, it's like, does it really need to be that much more durable? Like, for us to keep those in stock, we'd have to raise the prices on our pens between $5 and $10 just to cover the cost of the anodize, and loss like that. So it's probably something we'll do just in smaller batches around the end of the year for special releases and stuff like that. Colin, it does not. It does not. It does not leave the door open for zirconium. No. No, 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 no. Hold on to your questions for the Q&A. So I'm trying to just get through this part. If you have questions, please hold on to them. So just remember them, because I might not see them again. And then, of course, we released the modal this year. So when we basically decided to like dial back all of the plans that we had in terms of like finalizing the Vertex, this major Vertex, non-metal Vertex production run that we did, when we basically said, okay, we're not going to go forward with that at this time. We're not going to pursue the resin decagraphs in the scope that we had initially planned. We're going to scale that back to just some releases at pen shows and maybe a few on the website. And that we were going to focus on, the speedsters and being in stock on some other products and stuff like that. Then it was like, okay, well, we had been prototyping, or we had talked about the design behind the modal for quite some time. And so basically what happened was, you're like, well, we have time on these machines that we're supposed to be doing other stuff. Let's go ahead and like full bore into wrapping up. At the time, we just called it the pocket pen, or I forget what it was even called. We didn't have a name for it. We had the idea of this like a side actuated bolt style pen that was going to be different. We were just calling it a pocket pen. And so we're like, let's just throw all of our extra time and resources are going to be into finalizing that design and getting it out before the end of the year. And that basically is what the modal became. Josh heavily like turned his attention to that. Every like spare moment that he had in terms of like sitting down and programming and prototyping, he ran like, I don't even know how much. I think in like 2 or 3 months, he would bring me like random parts that he'd hand machined on the hand lathe back there, like just taking a bolt upper and like changing things around. And then he was like using glue and epoxy to like glue a clip on, and he would cut this down. And so he's combining like Frankensteining things together to just give an overall look of what the pen, the upper portion would look. And then he would be like, well, what about this? And how about this functionality? So he put a lot of his time and effort into that, mainly because like Bill and myself had very little feedback to him in terms of like the must-haves on the pen. We basically said, hey, it needs to be as short as possible, as short as we can make it, and it uses a Pilot G2 refill, and it has as deep of a carry pocket clip as we can put on it. Those are the 3 things that it has to have. Other than that, go crazy, try as many ways, many different looks as it is. And when we're, and so he would bring them to us and he'd show them to us, and we'd be like, oh yeah, that functions really well. That's a great, starting point. A lot of it was not like, there was no aesthetic design to it. All of that kind of, we didn't even take that into consideration at the time. We really were just kind of looking at the functionality and making sure we could do what we want. We could get check all the boxes on what the pen needed to do in terms of function, and then the form of it. We would nail that down after the functionality was there. And so, I don't know. It was probably about September-ish that basically Josh was like, "Hey, I have this. The mechanism works right." In terms of like how it's going to function with actuation. The clip I have that all nailed in. Now we just need to sit down and decide what the pen looks like. And initially we were going to design something new. It's going to have a completely different lower barrel to the bolt. It's going to be the same length. It's just going to look different. And kind of due to the design elements that Josh had built into the upper body at that point, like the shape of the clip, the shape of the clip at this area, and then overall the design of it basically was like, I know it's not a bolt. Like when Bill and I sat down with Josh and we're like, we know it's not a bolt, but it kind of is a bolt. Let's just use the bolt lower. It will allow us to release this pen in 2023 because had we designed another lower, that pen would not have gotten released until 2024, and likely not until it would be released right now. If we'd had to manufacture lower bodies too, we would probably not be releasing that pen until March. So out of necessity more than any, like we can say out of necessity, but also it looks good with the bolt lower on it. So that's kind of, so we released that. Super happy about that was, I mean, everybody seems to have positive feedback about it. I have yet to hear anything negative about it from anybody. Maybe the naysayers are just not in my universe, or they haven't approached me yet about the modal. But even people who are involved in the pen community externally in forums and chat groups and Discord servers that I am not a part of have, passed along good in, like, basically, yeah, everybody in this group likes it and everybody in this group likes it and nobody has anything negative to say about it, which is great. Like, I love it. I think it's outside of the Vertex, I think it's the best pen that we have. I think it's the best pen that we've created. Those two pens, I think, are the two best pens that we've basically created going to this point. Which is how it should be 10 years in. I think that you should be making better product in terms of form and functionality at year 10 than you did at year 1. If we peaked with the second pen we made, which was the original bolt, which I think is still a great design, but if we'd peaked there and then hadn't improved on anything until now, I think that's problematic. Hats off to Josh, because the lion's share of the work in terms of like physical work, in terms of design work, programming work, all that stuff is on him. I did the small portion of just the marketing and naming and stuff like that with Bill. So pretty easy on for me to basically take what he'd provided, sit down with Bill and the ideas that we had and flesh out the ideas that we talked about during the prototyping process, and basically put together the story of the pen and encapsulate that into even the name. And where we are, kind of where we're at now with releasing production versions, and then and going forward. And I'll talk about the future of the modal in the next section, but we'll end the 2023 recap with, the big kind of news that we released. Really wasn't a 2023 thing; it was a 2024 thing. But we made this decision in 2023, the decision to discontinue the K-series pens. And we've gotten a lot of feedback. I mean, that day that I sent that email out, our inbox was flooded with people emailing, please, this is my favorite pen. Why are you getting rid of this? It's like the one that I use on a daily basis. This is the first pen. I was the original Kickstarter backer. And Bill and I have talked about discontinuing the K series pens for about 3 years now. I think I brought it up to him the first time shortly after the Vertex officially released. And every single time, like, that pen is obviously very important to our company. It's the first pen that we designed. It's the first pen that we manufactured. Bill was heavily involved in the story of that pen and everything behind it, as much as, Dan did a lot of the research on it, the R&D, and in terms of, like, how do we make a pen, how do we become a pen manufacturer, how do we use alternative platforms to selling pens like Kickstarter and stuff like that. So while Dan Bishop did a lot of the work on on many elements of that, that pen is still very personal to Bill, and it is still the first pen that we ever made. We wouldn't have the modal without the success that we had with the K series pens. But Bill and I basically, funnily enough, like 2 Fridays before, like, so not the Friday right before Christmas, but the Friday prior to that, Bill and I were here. I was here with him. It was just the two of us, and we were cleaning up, getting ready to leave for the day. And he basically said, he's like, I think we should probably discontinue the K series. So it came up from him this time instead of from me. And so I kind of, like, knew at that point in time that it was just the right decision to make. It's not that it's not popular. It's just, it's not a pen that we can keep in stock. And similar to the conversation about titanium, the upfront cost in purchasing the material to a manufacturing run of pens that are going to potentially sit in the drawers for 4 years before we sell out of them, and I have to, like, get them reanodized. That's just not. It's not a wise business decision at that point in time, to put it bluntly. So, and that's kind of where we're at. The last time we did a production run of the K series was early 2020, maybe, or 2019. So all the pens all those pens that were made 4 years ago, like, they're not moving. And we kind of realized that a lot of the movement that we had on the K series pens was via our retail partners. We still sold a lot of K series pens to some of our wholesale and retail clients. And when those went away, the organic sales of that pen just kind of, like, flatlined. And so it's a business decision right now. Going forward, again, we're going to keep the black K series, and we're going to keep the tumbled K series, because I have enough non-anodized bodies, caps and bodies on hand to probably to keep those two colors in stock. Black is the cheapest color for us to do. We have the least amount of loss on black pens of any of the other colors, including silver. We basically probably only end up scrapping, out of every 100, we scrap maybe 5 or 10 black, whereas some colors will scrap as many as 50 out of a batch of 100, or 80 out of 100 with the last 2 batches of olive K series pens that we've done. We've had to scrap, like 80% of the batch was scrapped. So just an all around decision was made to basically no longer manufacture that pen, and to just roll with the tumbled, and the black until we were out of stock completely on the bodies that I have raw at this point. And then we would, hey, do we want to make another small batch to just do the black and the tumbled? And if not, then at that point we might semi-permanently pause that pen. So, and that kind of like put a cap on all the decisions and all the stuff that we did in 2023 that I want to talk about. So, all right, that's a lot of talking. Let me have a little a refresher here. Ooh, that's good. Boy, that's real nice. All right. Okay, collect myself. Let's go right into 2024. I'm going to knock it out. I'm going to get it right away, get it out of the way immediately. For the first part of 2024, we're really going to continue with what I talked about with the modals. So we're working right now on the manufacturing of the brass modals, clips, upper bodies, and lower body. So all the parts of the brass modals are being manufactured right now. I think the only thing that we actually have done might be the buttons. We manufactured a whole bunch of brass buttons, so I think those are done. And so we're working on all the rest of the pieces. Those will be available before the end of January. That run should be done before the end of January. And so the brass will be added to the website in the next 2 weeks. Copper also in the works right now. We still have to figure out the clip on the copper. The copper clips might actually look, so this one that I have on here is actually a copper clip. This is a prototype copper clip. Doesn't function like it should, like the brass and the copper, or the brass and the aluminum, largely because copper, most of this is strong enough, functionally sound enough to withhold, the rigors of daily carry, as well as the aluminum or the brass. The problem is 256 threads that we use internally to hold this in. The copper is just too soft. Those threads strip out in when we put them together, even when we're extremely careful. In order to torque that down hard enough, there's not enough threads in there to really get it tight enough on enough of them. About 50% of the ones that we tested, we ended up stripping. So in actually figuring this out and making a copper version of this with a copper clip, the copper clipped version may look a little different. This may be a little bit taller. This top piece may be a little bit taller or rounder, just so we can fit another like 1.5 or 2 turns of a thread in there, so we can use a longer thread that will give us that extra like, I don't know what the word is, but will function so that it doesn't strip out. Bill's about 90% certain that adding those and extra threads in there will fix that issue. So it'll look a little bit different. If you really pay close attention, the copper ones will. But we still have to future-proof that. We want to make sure that we get that right. And so we're kind of working on that right now. The earliest those would be available would be sometime in mid-February. So that's kind of where we're at with the copper on that one. In terms of other anodized production colors, right now we have the blue, the black, the red, the gray, and tumbled. We are going to add silver. We are going to add our green. We're going to add violet. We're going to add a shiny olive, like our other olive pens, and that will have a silver clip that will look like these pens. So we're going to add, like I said, silver with a silver clip, green with a silver clip, violet with a silver clip, shiny olive with a silver clip. We are in discussions with a couple different anodizers that will that have orange and teal and a different like bright, like a lighter green and some other colors. So there are going to be other color options that we're looking into, as long as that other anodizer, their pricing structure is good and their minimums are good and their work is good. So fingers crossed we can add some colors that we haven't had in a while to this. And then production versions will also include Ultem. So we are going to release this pen with an Ultem body, lower and upper body, an Ultem slider, an Ultem button, and it will have a silver, or it will have an aluminum clip that will be tumbled or anodized a specific color. We have to figure the color out that we're going to match with Ultem. We are going to prototype, at this point, only prototype, Delrin modals. We don't know if that's actually if those are going to work in production. So that might not make it to a production pen, but we are going to at least prototype them. The Ultem we've already manufactured those bodies. We're just waiting on the uppers to get done. The lower bodies are done. The upper bodies we're working on those. So that there will be an Ultem version of that. And then as far as other materials, we don't have any plans on other materials. We may do some Cerakote versions for Pen Club members, maybe only Pen Club members. The functionality, the way that the pen works and how the clip goes in, it's something we're going to have to test Cerakote on this pen, because it might end up damaging. The way that pen is put together may damage the Cerakote. And so we haven't fully decided yet. And even if we do them, we may only be able to do them in very small batches. So it might limit the fact that we only have like 10 of a pen of a certain color, 10 of one color. In which case those will only likely go to the Pen Club members. In terms of like alternate grip profiles, we don't have any plans to release alternate grip profiles for the modal until the summer on the website. Now, Pen Club members may see alternate grip profiles show up earlier than that in very limited numbers, and they'll be specific. So we're basically going to attempt to come up with some new grip profiles and phase out some of the old ones. So like some of the old ones that we did, like fluted, we might not do fluted grips anymore. The frad one might stick around, and the dragon skin will stick around. But we may add some other ones that some new stuff that we haven't done before. And in doing that, I think we're going to come up with a grip profile that's only available to Pen Club members. So when we do a special release for the Pen Club for a modal in a specific colorway, it may have this new grip profile, and they're the only people that have access to it. That's the plan right now, is that Pen Club members will have access to all the other grip profiles we do, but they'll potentially have their own grip profile that we haven't settled on yet. But it's in the works to do something like that. I don't think it will be knurled. Dragon Skin is going to stay on the main website probably for the foreseeable future. I think we're gonna come up with something else for the Pen Club members. All right, so that's kind of like the plan for where we're at in terms of like if you're looking for a dragon skin grip profile outside of any of outside of those brass ones that the Pen Club had access to last year, the grip section profiles change, like different versions won't be available until the summer months. Just because we have a lot of stuff that are on the schedule. I don't have any grip sections that are in any other profile right now that aren't already like assigned to pens, like bolts. So I don't have any that I can actually put on those pens. We'd have to manufacture them from scratch. And so, since we're still manufacturing the pens themselves as we are going along, that kind of takes precedence. We need to get through all the brass modals. We need to get through all the copper modals. We need to get through all the Ultem modals. If the Delrin ones work out, then we'll do white and black Delrin ones. And then we need to do another run of aluminum ones because we're gonna be sold out of all the aluminum ones. And so that's and at the end of that, we'll start manufacturing alternative grip profiles. So that we're looking at like the end of March, early April before we can even start manufacturing on alternative grip profiles, which means the release of that won't be until sometime in the summer. Okay, so that's the kind of final update that I have on the modals in terms of 2024. All right. If you're curious about pen shows, here are the pen show calendar as it sits right now. We will be at the California Pen Show, which is in LA, from February 16th to the 18th. That's show number 1 for the year. Show number 2 for the year is going to be Baltimore from the March 1st through the 3rd. I think so. The first show I think is going to be G and maybe Tommy. Bill is going to be in Baltimore. I don't know if anybody is going with him. So Bill will be in Baltimore from March 1st to the 3rd. There's several local like non-pen shows, but local like shows like car shows and meetups and stuff like that we're going to be at here in between March and May. The next pen show we're going to be at after the Baltimore show will be Chicago, May 2nd to May 5th. Then you'll find us at the DC show August 1st through the 4th. Likely the Chicago show will be Bill again and probably his wife. DC will most likely be G and Tommy again. San Francisco, August 23rd through the 25th. Probably G and Tommy on that show. Dallas, September 29th and 30th. Probably be G by herself. Colorado is TBD, but it's going to be in October, and it'll probably be me by myself again, like it was this last time. I was able to manage that show by myself. And that's the only shows that we have scheduled at this point in time. It's possible that we may go to a few other shows we just haven't made the decision yet completely, but those are the shows that we have planned going forward. Quickly, we do plan on doing speedsters again, and we do plan on doing alternate body shapes for speedsters. So I don't know that we're coming to Portland this year in July because I think that all 4 of us that do shows have conflicts on the date that show is. So I don't think we're going to make it to the Portland show this year. I know Bill loved it last year, loved it the year that we went before that. So it's not like we're not going because we don't want to go to that show. I think it's mainly because we have conflicts that just came up. We're going to be, like I said, we're going to be doing speedsters. We're going to be doing alternate versions speedsters. The shapes of those largely have not been nailed down yet. There probably will be some type of truck version based loosely on Bill's shop truck that we've done, that we've done notebooks of, and that you've seen in images and stuff like that. And then two final updates that are kind of big updates, like a bit like an update. I know we've been talking about this for a long time, but we are like, I know I've said this before, but we are very, very close to launching the new website. We have literally, I got here at 9:30 today. Bill and I sat down with our new web developer and had a hour and a half long meeting about the website and what needed to happen for that to go live. So, and then how that's going to work with the pen club and changes that we're going to make and stuff like that. So you should see the new website, fingers crossed, but we're like on track for the new website to be up pretty quickly. There's some stuff we need to move around. We need to back up some stuff. We have some new updates that we need to install to it, and then moving around the domains and stuff like that so that what is currently Everyday Karis, which is where we're building the new website, we'll basically move that over to kariscustoms.com. And it should be everything we've tested on it. We've actually had people accidentally buy stuff on it before because some of the stuff was live, and luckily we had it in stock. We were able to ship it. It's much faster, vastly more mobile friendly. In fact, we've selected a design specifically because it's maximized for mobile. I think it looks better on mobile than it does on my big screen monitor that I use in here. So if you're a mobile shopper, which 80% of the people are at this point, you're going to notice that it is going to be much easier to navigate, much easier to process orders. There's a few things we haven't nailed down yet, like Apple Pay and Google Pay, but those are still on the top of the list in terms of like once we have it live, adding that functionality, because that's just literally like adding it to the payment processing side of things. So that will be there. It just might not be there on launch. And then finally, to kind of wrap up and give you guys like an idea of where 2024 is trending. The plan is that, like we did last year in terms of prototyping and releasing a new pen, that we would prototype and release a new pen this year. That pen would be I hesitate to use the word jumbo, so I'll use the word XL, and whether that's different enough than jumbo or not. A larger fountain pen than the ink and the Decograph and the Vertex. Larger in length, larger in width. So the plan this year is to prototype and design a larger fountain pen that implements some of the trying to think how to say this, that implements some features that we've attempted to put on certain pens and haven't yet, but that really like bases itself on the geometry that we have in the Vertex grip section, due to the fact largely that every person that has ever gripped or used or attempted to use a Vertex, even if they have no other comments, even if they don't end up buying a pen, their comment is that's one of the most comfortable pens in terms of the grip section to hold on to. So the idea is to utilize the architecture or the geometry of that grip section, and then the body and cap will be like a brand new design. So currently it's going to be it's going to be a large pen, but just at that kind of sweet spot where a number 6 nib is going to look fine on it. Not going to look too small on this larger pen. Mostly because sourcing number 8 nibs that aren't extremely expensive is a little bit problematic at this point in time. Trust me, I've tried. It's not that fun. And I don't know that we want to put a number 8 nib on there yet. When we prototype some pens with number 8s, it really needed to be big pen for that number 8 not to look like an eyesore, in my opinion. I think a number 6 would look fine on this pen if we land at the shape and the size that I'm leaning towards. Now, it may be that we have 2 different grip sections, one that accepts a number 8 if we ever find a number 8 that would work in our pens. I don't know. At this point, it's going to be based around the 250, the Bach 250 thread and nib units. Okay. Initially, it's going to be metal. This is going to be a metal pen, but it's going to be a different, but it would be able to be made in metal or acrylic. So we could make it out of, resins, or we could make it out of metal. The prototyping will be done in all metal, or mostly 90% metal. Excuse me. All right, so that's kind of the main focus of 2024 in terms of like what we're going to be doing. It's going to be like modals, and then this prototyping of this other fountain pen. And that's kind of like where we're at. We have not put we've not put a lot of other like plans into place of like, hey, we should try to do this, we should try to do that. We wanted it to be a couple different realistic things that we could potentially do before the end of the year, mostly because things are still kind of up in the air. We've become much more efficient in terms of how we do things. Our staff is still really small. We're about half the amount of people that we were in January of 2022. So in January 2022, I think we had 13 people. Right now we have 7. So that's kind of, where we're at right now, and where we plan on staying for the foreseeable future. So we can't get too far out and plan too far ahead. It's just not going to work out for us. Okay, so I didn't say this at the beginning, and I apologize profusely, but if you're savvy with YouTube, you'll know that there's a pinned comment that is a Google form. That is the giveaway for the live stream. And the items that you're seeing, that you've seen once already, it looks like 21 of you have completed the giveaway form. But it is a giveaway. I'm going to pick 4 winners. You're going to get one of 4, I'm going to give all 4 of these away. So one of each of the new production modals is what we're going to do with that. So please, if you have not completed the form, the pin, like I said, the pin comment in the live chat is where you're going to be able to click and complete that. So we will run that giveaway at the end of this next section, which is the question and answer section. And I will go ahead and start taking questions now. I'm not going to try to scroll up through and find any earlier questions. If you asked a question earlier and I didn't answer it, go ahead and please put it back in the chat. And then I'll kind of I'm going to read through them and get to them. And you can stare at the pens that are over there that are the giveaway pens instead of my face, because I'm going to take a couple sips of whiskey and wait for the questions to come rolling in. Nathan Kelso asks, will you offer a Parker conversion for the modal? I guess that's the other thing that I didn't go over. We're actually not going to do. We haven't landed on the decision on how to implement the Parker with the modal. I believe that what we are going to do is not going to be a conversion with the current sized modal. What it is going to be is a shorter upper body and the use of an EDK lower that would allow you to use either a Parker style refill or a P8126 refill. And it would be about almost a quarter of an inch shorter than the current modal that you're seeing on the screen. So it would be about 4 3/4 inches long. Use the same clip, use the same slider, the same button. It would just have a different upper body and a different lower body. It would look the same. But it would, like I said, use the EDK lower barrel, which would take a Parker sized and P8126. That's kind of where we're at right now. Rather than put an adapter kit into this, is just have a slightly shorter pen altogether. And realistically, the reason for that is because we sell more pens that take the P8126 and not a traditional Parker style refill. And the only pen that we have that takes a P8126 is the EDK, and it also takes a Parker. So that's kind of why we're landed on that. So, okay, Sean Murphy, when should you have acrylic Vertex grip sections back in stock? That's a good question. I don't have an answer for you. It's on the list of things for us to get done on our production schedule. But because we no longer manufacture them from point A from beginning of run to end, they're molded in polycarbonate, and then we finish machine them afterwards just to take off a little bit of size and get them down to where we need. We kind of have to get back. We kind of have to get them from our partner that does molding. So hopefully in first quarter we'll have those back. I don't know. All right, let's see. Adam, how soon can we expect another EDK Mark II release? That's a good question. I don't know, because I don't know if we have any more fragged Mark II barrels for the EDK, in which case it wouldn't be until, if we don't have any raw ones, it wouldn't be until I don't know, April. If we have some still in stock, probably within the next 45 to 60 days. One of the plans that I have in the next couple of weeks is to sketch out some non-modal special releases and get those sent out to anodizers and what have you. Just pay attention to our social media. We should have an update on that type of stuff coming. Double Deets. Any plans for sleeves or cases? We've talked about doing those in the past, and it just never came about. I do have some ideas. I just haven't been able to finalize the designs on them. If I have some free time this year, that's probably where I will allocate it, is to getting those designs for some pen sleeves and pen cases done. But I can't guarantee it's going to happen this year. No Stravinci. Are the titanium pins made from solid bars of titanium? They are made from raw rod stock. So basically, it is a rod of solid titanium in whatever width we are, in whatever width we kind of need for our specific pens. So like we use 1/2-inch rod for the majority of the pens that we make, and then for the inks and the Vertex we used 5/8 rod for those. So yes, it is solid rod. It's not a bar, but it is a solid it is a solid cast, I think it's cast titanium, grade 5 titanium rod stock. Sean Murphy plans to re-release the Ultim Vertex. Yes. That is one of the things that Bill and I talked about this past Tuesday when we sat down and went over the production schedule. Ultim Vertexes were added to the production schedule. Where they fall in that production schedule, I don't know. But we do have plans to turn that into a production pen in terms of of how much we can productionize that manufacturing. So it might only be runs of 200 to 300 pens at a time instead of several thousand, like we do with our metal pens. But it would be a productionized version where we'd make a large run and then have them available, and we'd do them once or twice a year. Yeah, Brian was making a joke that said it's Karis, why doesn't it hold a pen? The reason that I read these out, guys, is if somebody rewatches this, it's kind of hard to access the chat, so they don't know what I'm asking. So I'm asking your questions out loud, basically, for anybody who rewatches this stream. So your wife saw the Speedster and asked why doesn't it hold a pen. We messed around with making Speedsters that held pens, and they just look goofy. It just looks weird. And we might do some, if we do a very large batch, we might make some of them have like a little divot for a pen, but it will always be like a very small run that will hold a pen. The rest of them it's a Matchbox car that's machined. That's kind of what it is at this point in time, like something similar to that. Let's see. Double D Cindy Knox shipwreck pens for 2024. We just did a run of shipwreck pens at the end of 2023. I still have a few. They're not available online, but we do have a few of each style left. We might do some in the middle of the year, but probably not anytime soon. Adam Johns asks, any other hard coat colors? Hard anodized is only available, at least here, at least with all the anodizers I've talked to, in natural and black. So no, for lack of a better word, just because I don't think it's available in other colors. At least we can't get it in other colors. Jay Bright. Any other 2021 coins left? I don't know. Email the info box, info@karascustoms.com. And then, or paul@karascustoms.com, and I'll see if I have any. I found some of the 20. Shoot, it would have been the second year coins. I found some of the second year coins. I haven't tracked down the any of the other coins, so I have to look. They're kind of scattered all over the place. Andreas, do you have any plans for modal style pen with fluted or textured grip section? Yeah, we're going to add some grip sections, but again, the modal won't have grip section like details on it until sometime in the summer. Jay Bright, restock of different size number 5 nibs. Okay. Part of the reason that there is no we're discontinuing the only pin that we have that takes number 5 nibs. I don't know that we will restock number 5 nibs. And if we do restock number 5 nibs, it will be nibs that don't have our logo on them. They will be just the standard box stamped nibs, because those are the only nibs that we can buy in small quantities. So in order for me to get like the version that we put our laser on, I have to buy those 1,000 of a tip size at a time. And since we're getting rid of the number 5 nib pins, we're not going to order 1,000 extra fines and broads. Whereas I can buy 100 extra fine, 100 of each of the box standard nibs. And so if we do that, if we do restock some of those smaller sizes or those other sizes, they'll just be standard box nibs. Let's see. The Crash Mind. Will you ever, or have you ever tried bronze? Yeah, so we released bronze inks, and then we released bronze. So basically, whenever we add any kind of new material, the first pen that it gets added to when we test it for production to basically implement it as a standard, we do it with the Bolt, because the Bolt is by far the best-selling pen that we make. So we did bronze bolts, and they just didn't sell. And so we do not have plans to do bronze again anytime soon. It's cost prohibitive. We have to price it at or above copper right now based off of raw cost. And most people can't tell the difference between a brass and a bronze pen. And so when they see that they can get a brass bolt for $90 or $95, whatever the price is right now, and a bronze bolt for $120, and they look nearly identical, the majority of people are going to buy the brass one 9 times out of 10. And so it's just one of those things where in the current economic market, we won't be adding bronze back anytime soon. Ultim Ink, Brian, sorry, not at this time. That one's not until we can figure out how to put the clip on that pen. The Ultim is strong enough the way that the architecture works with the clip for the modal, not strong enough for the way that the clip works on the Bolt. Jason just joined, so I may have missed it already. If it's brought up, any titanium modals in the future? You did miss it. We're not going to have any titanium pins, period, in the foreseeable future, until pricing comes down on titanium, and we can sell titanium for what we meant for, at a margin that we can produce it. So titanium is basically paused for the foreseeable future. A says, any plans for a Vertex with a bigger nib, 380 or a Bach or a Yovo number 8? Yeah. It may work its way into the next pin that we make, maybe. But it is not a main focus of ours to implement a number 8 nibbed pin. So these kinds of things like that go hand in hand. So the answer that the best way for me to answer questions like that is to just kind of like I don't want to lump them all together, but it's all the same answer. it's like slicing. It's like you have a pie of people that buy pens that cost more than $10 a piece, and there's different size slices of that pie, and you have to put all of those individual preferences into what's left of that whole pie. People that want to or have the ability to purchase a pen made out of bronze or titanium at the pricing that we have to price our pens, or a number 8 nib, the slice of that pie is extremely small. So it's like a niche market inside of a niche market. It's the same thing whenever somebody asks me, are you ever going to make a clutch pencil or a pencil with like a number 2 lead insert? Like unless I could guarantee that I could market to 100% of the people that had ever purchased a clutch pencil in their life, I could not sell enough of them for us to make a production pen, for us to purchase the minimum amount, make a production pen. Because we are a CNC manufacturing facility, we're not like some of the manufacturers that in the States that make pens that accept a number 8 nib. Those guys make, 10 pens that accept a number 8 or 50 pens or whatever, but it's 50 pens over an entire year. When we tool up to make a run of pens, a small run of pens for us is, metal pens is like 500. That the smallest we're going to do is 500 pens. It's just not worth our time, unfortunately, like to program and prototype and test, future proof, and then do the run. So that's kind of where we're at with anything that's outside of aluminum, brass, and copper in terms of materials, or different size nibs or different shapes or filling mechanisms and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that's just where we're at, and it's even become more restrictive due to the current economy that we're in right now. Brian and Crash, that sprinkle donut or dessert warrior thing, like I would try it if I could get our anodizer or our Cerakote guy to do it. I don't think he would. Let's see. James, is the plan to let club members know about cars and trucks first before general release? Yes. So likely you'll get early access or even exclusive access in some circumstances to some of the Speedster releases. But yeah, that's the plan with those. Fountain Pendulum, recently ordered the white Delrin Olive Vertex, would love a Vertex in Ebonite. We don't have plans to work in Ebonite anytime soon. We've attempted to work in it multiple times, and it plays hell with our machines. At the cost of damage of the fact that the last time we tried to use it, it irreparably damaged a $175,000 machine, because Ebonite is a semi-organic composite that is made in vulcanization, and even the expensive stuff can be permeated with lava rock, which is what we ran into. We machined a piece of Ebonite that had vulcanized rock in it. And when you run that through a machine that is not meant to have that type of material in it, it resulted in multiple thousands and thousands of dollars of repairs. So yeah, we're not going to do Ebonite anytime soon. That's just not feasible for us. Any chance to have a black Delrin section opaque? We may attempt to do some grip sections out of Delrin this year. I have to sit down and talk to Bill about if that's feasible to do, specifically with the Vertex. It didn't work out the last time we attempted to do it with the inks. We did do them for the decograph, but we don't have any more of those left. So it's possible we could do that. I'll have to talk to him about it. Brian Marsh, grooved grip sections for O-rings. So you mean like insert O-rings, kind of like the stuff that, what's his name? That Jack Roman does on his pens? I don't think we're going to implement anything like that. Like, I think it would come across as though we were kind of stepping on something that Jack does and is known for doing on his pens. We have a really good working relationship with Jack, and I wouldn't want to even come off that way. So I don't think we would do that in terms of implementing O-rings in a grip section area. If anything, maybe like if we could figure out how to do a two-piece composite grip section where like the tip was made out of aluminum and then it had like a slide-on, I don't know, Delrin sleeve or something that was textured. Maybe we would do something like that. But I'm just spitballing here, and like that's all a manufacturing question for Bill or Josh as to how easily that would be to implement. Sean asked, what's the plan for sourcing acrylic? I just say resin because we're not currently using acrylic. Still going to make them in-house. So the Vertex and Decograph resin pens will still be made in-house out of Alumilite, not acrylic, which is Aluminite's a two-part epoxy. It's the same stuff that Jonathan Brooks uses for his blanks. We messed around with several other two-part epoxies. Many of them did not turn out to be viable for our pens. It's not really going to be something we focus on too much this year. Might be something we do towards the end of the year. But it's largely dependent on how the prototyping process on the new fountain pen comes along. If that moves smoothly enough and we have enough time to also dedicate manufacturing of those on a machine, then we may do some of those. But it's possible that we'll pause resin pens, except for some small batches of them here and there. We might see a pause on that for the next, I don't know, 8 to 12 months. Might not revisit resin pens until 2025 or the end of 2024. We do have Alumilite. We have the molds. G knows how to do that now. We have some decographs. So the resin pens you will see come out this year, specifically decographs, are going to be available at pen shows primarily, in batches of like between 8 and 12 color schemes per batch. I think right now we have about 100 pens. I think there's like 8 to 10 of each color scheme that are done that will be released at pen shows in 2024. All right. It's 4:30. I think it's time to run the old I think it's time to run the old giveaway form. So let's do this. If I can get to Jonathan Brooks collab. I'm not gonna say yes or no to any kind of collaborations this year. In the past, we've said yes, we're definitely gonna collaborate with people, or no, we're not, or maybe gonna collaborate with people. If I had to pick one or the other, um, I would err on the side of we're probably not going to do any collaborations this year. Only because it's been the last two times we've done it, it's just been a little bit difficult to it's just been a little bit difficult to go to start the process and finish the process in the time frame that both of the parties had basically settled on. We're usually really like loose and say, hey, like here's our time frame. Whenever you can get it to us within this time frame, that's great. Like we try to be as accommodating as possible, which normally gives enough time for the other party to to figure everything out on what they need to do on their end of things, if it's a two-part collaboration or if it's just us collaborating with them. And we've had varying degrees of successes with the different people. I just don't think that we'll do a direct collaboration with anybody this year, mainly just because we're so short-staffed, and the current staff that we have are very focused on the tasks that we already have. Kind of splitting that, like, and adding that to things ends up being very time-consuming, and stuff gets lost in translation. We do have some stuff that we kind of want to do with other manufacturers that might end up taking some time of my time, or take up some of Bill's time. But that wouldn't necessarily be a collaboration. It might actually be a like long-term partnership type of thing, or some I don't know if the word bilateral sourcing or whatever you want to call it. It might be a more of a long-term venture. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of something like that. All right, let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to do the attempting to do this randomizer. Okay. Adam asks, are gold nibs scheduled to return? I don't know. I think it really depends, Adam, on what the market looks like when we go to release the next fountain pen. So during the prototyping of this larger size fountain pen, when we're ready to launch that pen, or when we even get close to saying, hey, we're going to go into production, like everything, we've prototyped it, everything's worked out, we know it's going to function, we would like the way it looks, everything like that. We're now going to go into full production on this pen. Let's source the nibs for this pen. If the market at the time, in terms of the fountain pen market for that style of pen with a gold nib, with the pricing that would demand, if the market there is there for it, then yes, I think we would purchase more gold nibs. As it stands right now, I don't think we'll restock gold nibs in the short run. I think we'll stick with steel and with titanium through this year, and only really revisit the gold nibs with that pen specifically or if the fountain pen market as a whole rebounds, and the economy starts to get stronger and people start to spend money on things that they don't need, like a pen with a nib. I'm not saying I'm just saying in general, the market for fountain pens is dramatically smaller than it was 2 years. Like, I'm just telling you that that is not our experience solely. Like, I spent hours at the last show that I was at talking to every other dealer there, and they were all of the same opinion that the pen market is largely down in terms of purchases. And that's a whole nother thing, like, that I could expound upon for a much longer time, having done some research and stuff into it now. But like, but if the market as a whole is down, the market for those higher end gold nibbed pens is also down, especially from a manufacturer like us that's not known for our gold nibs. We're just not, like, people see our pens and like, why is that pen $300? And I'm like, well, it has a gold nib on it. And the majority of people are like, I'll just get the one that's 90. So, let's see. No, we're still in the developmental phase for the new fountain pen. So we're not even close to, so here's where we're at. Bill and I have sat down and we've talked through, like, the way that we want it to look and how we kind of want certain things to function, and what it's going to be based off of. We haven't done any of the actual prototyping outside of just speaking the words into the ethos, into the atmosphere, into the speaking of the ideas of what we want it to be. We don't have a sketch of it. We don't have a CAD drawing of it. We haven't put even the individual pieces into sketch form or CAD form. So we're quite a ways away from that pen being coming to fruition. I would like for it to come to fruition before the end of this year. And I think that's doable based off of the fact that we've done that before in the past with other pens. So, all right. Six it is. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Randomize the list 6 times. All right. Here we go. So the winners of the giveaway are, everybody's ready. Drum roll, please. Brrrr. It's Nick, right? Nick, NS, Nick, way at the top. I got to go scroll all the way to the top. Nikolai. I don't want to butcher your name. NS in chat. Your winner number 1. Winner number 2. A Bertie. Mr. or Ms. or I hate, like, that's what I hate about this. Like, you can put whatever name you want. I don't know if you're, I don't know what you are or identify as, but A Bertie is winner number 2. Anthony Munt, winner number 3. And then winner number 4, Nostra Vinci. So there we've got Nick, A Bertie, Anthony Munt, and Nostra Vinci. Please email Paul at, here, I'll type it into the chat. Email me at that email address. and with your shipping address details so that I can get these shipped out next week. So there you go. All right. It's been an hour and 40 minutes. We've obviously talked for much longer than a normal. What was I going to say? Any last minute questions? Last minute questions. All right, so the plan going forward in terms of live chats, this will be emailed out, but since we're here talking about it, I might as well give you guys a heads up. The next live chat will be same time, same place. Here, I'll put the names, I'll type the names out of the winners. Those are the 4 winners. There you go. So the 9th of February. Yeah. February 9th, 3 p.m. is the next live stream. If you want to mark your calendars now for that, as long as I don't run into any like crazy issues with the streaming software or any of that stuff. That is the plan. We're going to try to do the live streams. Try to do the live streams the second Friday of every month at 3 p.m. So that's where we're at there. If there's any other questions, we can do it quickly. Otherwise, I think we're going to wrap it up, and I will say good night to you fine folks, and we will speak again. Anything else? I always feel weird at the end, like, I don't really have a sign off. I don't have a dedicated way to do things. I need to come up with like a script in the beginning and a script at the end. I should just play some B-roll or something of me like wandering around setting everything up. Eric. Boy, buddy. If we ever get Zerk, I expect you to buy all of it. Okay, everybody, thank you for being a part of the live stream. If you are one of the winners, please email at paul@karascustoms.com with your shipping information. I'm just going to randomly select what color you get. Other than that, guys, I really appreciate you spending this time with me. You guys being here is what, makes it fun. Otherwise, I'd just be talking to a camera for an hour and 40 minutes. And that's not fun at all. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.